Hi, I'm Sherry Damaris, and welcome to Macro Magic. And today I have with me a very special friend, Warren Kramer. Warren has over 30 years experience in macrobiotic lecturing and counseling. He's one of the main lecturers on the Holistic Holiday at Sea Cruise. He's been a teacher at the Kushi Institute for over 30 years. He's traveled throughout the United States counseling and teaching many, many thousands of people how to eat a cleaner diet and practice macrobiotics. Welcome, Warren.
Thank you, Sherry.
It's so nice to have you. I just love your lectures. I sit in all of
Thanks so
them,
much.
take copious notes.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And we just love your work. I love your explanation of things. And I think during this time of the pandemic, it's really important for people to hear how to take better care of their immunity and also watch their blood sugar. So today we're going to talk about blood sugar, which is
Yeah.
a pretty hot topic right now.
Yeah.
I know you've counseled many, many people with hypoglycemia and diabetes and help them get off their medications, which is really important. And today you're going to show us a really fun, easy to make sweet soup that can help even out your blood sugar.
Definitely. Absolutely. Thanks, Sherry. So, yeah, real quickly, when I began my journey, definitely over 30 years ago, I was actually severely hypoglycemic. I didn't know what hypoglycemia was, but my blood sugar was chronically unstable. What do I mean by unstable? What do I mean by that? Well, it'd be constant. Either I would need to be eating or snacking or going for more sweets or something to pick my energy up. And it was especially bad in the afternoons, like right after lunch. After I would eat, I'm like, okay, I could eat another meal again. And I'd also be crashing, just so tired.
And that's
Well,
so typical of so many people right now. I mean, if you
oh,
look at them.
it's epidemic, And again, what people don't realize is that hypoglycemia and diabetes are brother and sister. So that very often people develop first hypoglycemia, then that condition switches into diabetes, which I'll get back to. We'll talk how that happens. But that's very, very common. So at the base of it, really, we're talking about is people that don't have stable blood sugar. It's really what it is. And when blood sugar is not stable, emotionally we're not stable, mentally we're up and down, more irritable. Energy-wise, of course, not even. We're crashing. This is actually why even in Asia, in a lot of the workplaces, they've actually put in cots so that
my
the
God.
employees, yeah, seriously, Sherry, I heard this, I read it, that they can take a little half-hour nap because it was so unproductive in the afternoon. People would just be sleeping at their computers.
And I
So-
remember before I was, practiced macrobiotics, I would fall asleep in my psychology class at college in the afternoon. The minute 2 o'clock hit, I'd be fast asleep, sort of in a fog.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And in fact, when I first moved to Boston and was living at a study house, I was so non-functional in the afternoon, I couldn't assist in the kitchen. I'd have to go take a nap. I couldn't even stand up at 2 o'clock. So anyway, yeah, some people have it pretty bad. So that's, yes, in the background. The good news is that it is treatable, it's curable. And this topic today about cravings and addictions, well, most people wouldn't think that that's a big part behind it, low blood sugar, but it actually is. It actually is. And many of the foods that we often crave are the ones that are perpetuating the problem, or let's say the low blood sugar condition. So Sherry, that's kind of the background to this.
So
right?
happy hours, lots of candy bars, all the commercial snacks all feed into that way of pumping back our blood sugar, but then you have a huge nosedive after that.
It crashes again, exactly.
And I was amazed
So,
at Starbucks, like some of the coffee places where they put those liquid sugars or sweeteners into the coffees,
Yeah.
like just as another boost, like a
Exactly.
more intense boost.
Exactly. So hypoglycemia or low blood sugar is caused by quite a few things that people think, quote unquote, are health foods, which is actually, that's one of the I think scary things about it, is that a number of things I'm going to mention right now, I know people are shocked when they hear, what? That's not healthy. So really behind hypoglycemia, number one is not sugar. Sugar will aggravate it. But the base cause of it are things like foods like eggs, poultry, turkey, so chicken, eggs, poultry, turkey, any birds, right? Cheese, hard cheese, right? Shellfish, shrimp, scallops, clams. So,
Now, why is that?
So the point is that hypoglycemia is a condition from basically, without getting too complicated with this yin and yang, it's an overly contracted condition. It's a yang, so we would describe that as yang, right?
Like very tightening.
Yes, it's gathered. So the pancreas itself is overly constricted and pressured, and often there's usually some sluggishness, some stagnation in that organ, as well as the kidneys, adrenals, that help to get blood sugar up. So the base cause of it are really those foods.
And tuna, right? Tuna's one of them.
Tuna, shellfish, exactly. So it doesn't mean never having them again, but for a period of time, it's very helpful to avoid them. And I'm sorry to say that given the summer months right now with outdoors and seafood and like that, but the bottom line is that there has a very strong contracting quality about them.
Yeah, I've had some friends that suffer from spleen, pancreas cancer, and they were absolute lobster lovers, shellfish, every Friday night. So you can see the correlation.
Yeah. The problem is, the shellfish are all bottom feeders. So they're eating a lot of sediment in the bottom of the water, which they're not clean. So, if you're already dealing with your own, let's say, a liver issue or spleen, whatever, it just makes it more of an issue.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's the base of it. And what happens when there's overconstriction is the hormone that is what raises blood sugar, anti-insulin, is called glucagon. Glucagon. And that is not normally secreted then when there's hypoglycemia. So blood sugar stays abnormally too low. Or there's an overproduction of insulin, which is what's for diabetes, and it lowers blood sugar too much. So it's usually one or the other. But when there's that contraction, when there's stagnation there, that's when this trouble begins.
So it's either too high or too low.
Exactly. So the whole idea is, how do you create good movement and circulation and releasing that pressure that for many people is on that pancreas and that area, that central region.
And in addition to all the inner pressure, we have all this outer pressure with the craziness in the world right now. So it's really important to try to stay as peaceful and calm and relaxed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because all that makes more contraction.
So today you're going to show us a soup that is really good for opening that area, relaxing it, getting some of the sugar more balanced. Yeah,
exactly. So, so shall we start on that now, Sherry?
Sure.
Great. So it's a squash soup, and my squash soup is a little different than I've seen in some books. And basically, what I'll do is I'll either use some butternut squash, and this is what it looks like, whole, the butternut.
Now those are really easy to grow, by the way. I took all the seeds and threw them out in my backyard.
Yeah, and they grow like crazy.
I already have like 12 of them growing.
Wonderful. So the inside, the flesh should be a nice deep orange. If it's really pale, I'm sorry to say, the soup won't be too sweet. Now, out of these squashes, bear with me, I think one of the sweetest of them all is the kabocha, or its sister, the buttercup. So these are amazing. And you're going to start to see these more and more very soon, actually, as they come in season.
Yeah, I know
So,
some of the major grocery stores carry them now, Whole Foods, and
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
in
So,
addition to
you know,
farmers
people ask me,
markets.
well, do I need to peel it? And well, with the kabocha, well, the soup will turn green. Not that there's anything wrong with that if you use the skin, and it's fine. I do usually peel it, but you can leave it on, you know, for the good nutrients in organic produce, of course.
And you can't really take a vegetable peeler. You've got to just cut it into slices and then cut around it.
Yes, and so,
Yeah.
you know, use a good knife. You know, this is a vegetable knife with the rounded front. And yes, you want a good strong knife to do that.
Now, in the summertime, I've seen that you make summer squash soup, which is
Oh,
nice,
absolutely.
just as sweet, and you put a little corn in it. So
Absolutely.
if it's not the winter time and you can't find squash, winter squash or butternut squash, you can always use yellow summer squash.
Yeah, that works very well. And then I often, with that soup, since you brought it up, I often put in a lot of dill at the end in that. So, what I used today was the butternut. I cut it open.
Those are all the wonderful seeds you can plant in your garden.
Exactly. And then I took some corn right off the cob. So here's the cob. And here are the corn kernels. You can see them.
Oh, nice.
So I cut them right off, and put that aside. I chopped up some onion, and that's here. Kind of small dice.
Nice.
And then also I have in my soup a little bit of Chinese cabbage that I just cut a little smaller as well.
So you put Chinese cabbage in the squash soup?
Yeah. So what I do, those are my ingredients. Then what I do is I put a little olive oil in the bottom of a pot, bottom of a nice soup pot. I usually use a heavy pot, like a Le Creuset or some enameled cast iron. Add a little olive oil, saute the onion, couple minutes, pinch of salt, let it wilt the onion. Then I added the corn that was cut off the cob, saute that another minute or two. Then I added the Napa cabbage, saute that. And then I added the squash cubes. So added these guys.
So it's basically sauteed first with the onion and then adding the other ingredients and some
Exactly.
water.
Because it sets a nice sweet base, I found. It's really nice like that. It's optional. I mean, you know, for people avoiding oil, you could leave the oil out, certainly.
So
And then,
we're going to break for commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to see your finished soup, and we're going to talk a little bit more about hypoglycemia and diabetes and some other conditions that you work with your clients.
Great.
This show is sponsored by Dr. Jacqueline. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacqueline.com to book an appointment today.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Hi, I'm Sherry Damaris, and I'm with Warren Kramer, a very experienced macrobiotic counselor and lecturer who's worked at the Cushy Institute and also is on the board of this Strengthening Health Institute. So welcome back, Warren. We're talking about hypoglycemia. You were talking about how to make a really great squash creamy soup to help with blood sugar. We have some photos of some dishes that you would recommend for hypoglycemia. The first one is a blanched salad. Do you want to explain how you made that?
Yeah, blanched salad. It's not necessarily blanched lettuce, but it's blanched mixed vegetables, usually a combination of round,
They're beautiful.
root, and leafy, that are cut pretty small. And very simply, you just bring a little water to a boil, about an inch in the pot. Bring the water to a boil. Put the vegetable in one at a time. It's in there about 30 seconds or so. As soon as it's very bright, you take it out, in and out.
Your explanations are so spot on. It's really nice how you explain things. So basically, blanching all these beautiful, bright-colored vegetables help release the pressure inside the pancreas.
What blanched vegetables do is they bring our energy from deep inside out. So it releases that pressure in a big way. It's like I tell people, it's the opposite of baking in an oven, which is pressure and heat. And this is more like up and out to the surface. And so that's what releases the pressure with hypoglycemia.
And oftentimes, you know, when you go to cafeterias or restaurants, you'll get this, but it'll be much darker, and they leave it in for hours.
Oh yeah, of course. It's overcooked, of course. Absolutely. Yeah.
So we also have hummus made from chickpeas.
There's hummus there. And you know, one of the things that we didn't talk about yet, but it's very important to have the right texture with certain health conditions. And with the cravings and addictions, one of the most important ones is creamy, the texture of creamy. So that's why I chose, besides the soup today, which is creamy, to put hummus up there, which is, of course, very nice and creamy. And quite popular.
It's
I mean, a lot of people
beautiful.
who are not into health foods like hummus.
Yeah, it's very comfort.
It's very popular.
food.
So the creamy quality about that, and it's sweet, is very good for blood sugar. Yeah.
Nice to know, right?
Yeah.
And we have another picture of fried tofu.
Yeah. So again, the oil, and this is, well, it doesn't matter. It could be deep fried or pan fried. But again, that oil, especially if it's deep fried, and you would think deep fried, oh my God, that's horrible for us. Well, used in small amounts, it's actually can be very beneficial. Dropped in the oil, very quickly cooked, take it out. That in and out of that oil actually helps to release pressure inside as well.
That's interesting.
That's why a dish like noodles, like a pho noodle soup with tofu and veg and noodles, is so good for blood sugar issues like hypoglycemia, because that dish really releases pressure. The noodles, broth, and a little bit of like deep fried protein. So it's fabulous.
Yeah, just talking about it's relaxing.
Yeah, right? I'm falling asleep just talking about it.
And we have one more photo of a dessert.
Yeah. So a Canton. So, you know, it's very important to have mild, soft sweet, not hard and dry and baked. That's not going to help. Even though, you know, and it's funny because a lot of people with hypoglycemia love cookies and hard, dry stuff, including myself.
Yeah, and you can feel the difference between a nice cooling pudding or Jell-O and then a hard baked cookie. You can feel the difference after you eat them.
Night and day. Yeah, night and day. It's, you know, people need to get in touch with that to experience that, to feel that. So this nice dessert, it's sweet, it's mild, but it has a nice opening quality to it. So it's not contracting and heavy and dense, let's say like a cookie or something heavy.
Yeah,
So-
and they're very easy dishes to make.
Yeah, they're not hard.
Right.
No.
And especially after you explain them.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely makes it easier. Sure.
So we're going to show your soup
Yeah, so let's take a look at that. It's right here to my right. Scoop this up. Here it is. I'll hold it up. It's blended. It's all ready to go. So let's see if we could see it nicely.
Oh, yeah. So you put it in a Le Creuset pot, and
Yes.
yeah, it's beautiful. We have a picture of it on the screen too.
Good.
And garnished it looked like with a little toasted nori.
So we were going to garnish with a little chopped scallion. Mm-hmm. So I was going to just chop up a little scallion here on my handy board.
So this soup you can have in the summertime and wintertime, or?
Yeah, Sherry, what I do in the summer is I make it a little thinner, so not as thick, not as thick. And like you said, you made a good point about the squash. I could certainly use summer squash versus the winter squash. For the summer months. Or I've started to use butternut. It's delicious. It's fine.
Yeah,
Just the key thing is not as thick.
yeah, and
So
heavy.
more water, thin it out, because thick soups are more heavy and warming. Okay, so here's the scallion. I'm actually putting it directly in the soup. A little green nori strips are very nice. So there's the scallion.
Oh, that's beautiful. So that would probably feed like what, 4 or 5 people in your
Oh
Le
yeah, definitely
Creuset?
5 people there. Yeah, and that took Sherry. That took maybe 15, 20 minutes to make.
Oh, really?
Once the water went in the pot, so after the squash was put in, water in the pot, pinch it to a salt, cover, simmer about 20 minutes, put the immersion blender in. For those of you that have those immersions, they're wonderful. Just blended it. And then if you feel it's too thick, add a little water to it, and then you season it. Add a little salt. I did today a little bit of chickpea miso,
So the white miso.
the white miso. Yeah, white miso is wonderful in a nice sweet soup.
Okay, and I know South River makes that.
South River, exactly. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about the lifestyle practices you might want to start doing in terms of low
Yeah.
blood sugar.
Yeah, so for hypoglycemia or low blood sugar, there are some very important lifestyle practices that need to be there to help with blood sugar. So number one, which is common sense, eat meals at regular times. Eat meals at regular times.
Which so often people don't do.
Now, eating irregularly will throw your blood sugar off. But breakfast really should be by 8:30. Lunch generally 12 to 1. Dinner 6 to 7, can be a little earlier. But the problem is that when you constantly change, one day lunch is at 12 and then lunch is at 2, then it's 1, then it's back to 12, then it's 3 o'clock. Your blood sugar is going to go up and down. So even regardless of what you're eating, it's just when you're eating. Okay?
So you can
So-
actually feel a dip. I don't know about you, but I
Oh,
know if you skip
absolutely.
lunch, you sort of start feeling weak in the knees by 2 o'clock and dizzy and tired.
100%. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I know lunch is one of the most important meals of the day, not to skip. I mean, if you're going to skip breakfast or dinner, it's probably better than
Yeah.
skipping lunch.
And a lot of people are skipping breakfast because they're snacking into the evening. So they're not hungry in the morning. That's very common with hypoglycemia, is other meals getting spoiled because blood sugar is so off. So like, for instance, the witching hour that I call the witching hour, I call the one at 2 o'clock, 2:30, because that's the one that people then will eat a lot again and then don't want to eat dinner because they spoiled it already from blood sugar being too low. So,
And what about intense exercise? I know that sometimes brings down blood sugar if you get
for me-
fanatical about exercise.
yeah, for me, with hypoglycemia, I don't recommend very intense exercise. I recommend regular, consistent exercise. It's consistent on a regular basis, but not like, more pressure, so to speak. You know, which is what, you know, activity or exercise is food. So it should release pressure, really. You know, I think like things like low impact aerobics, dancing, you know, taking nice walks in the park and nature to release pressure. Like that.
And being outside.
Say it again?
Being outside.
Oh, most important is actually being in nature. Yeah, with hypoglycemia, the most important thing to release pressure is being outdoors, being outside. Yeah.
So why is that? Why do you feel more pressure indoors in a building?
Because nature, especially getting to the park or trees, it's softer. It has a softer, more yielding quality about it than indoors or at a gym or at a club, which is more hard, more contracted. So being in nature, especially, you know, is incredibly helpful.
Away from your Wi-Fi and all your microwave radiation.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
so it really helps.
Also, doing a body rub or body scrub is really important for.
Yeah. Body rub is very helpful. In other words, taking a cotton face cloth and folding it over into a few layers and dipping it in the water. You wring it out. We dip it. It activates the lymph and circulation. It opens up our pores because our skin is our third kidney. So one of the things the body rub does, besides deep cleaning, activate the lymph, it releases pressure. You know, our skin's a pressure valve. So especially when people have very dry skin or it's not breathing, not sweating uniformly, even when we perspire, you know, that's a sign usually that the skin is clogged. So the body rub really helps, right? In a big way.
And warm showers and baths, or?
Yeah, warm shower is very good. Nice warm bath is very good. Baths especially great to release pressure. Sleeping with a hot water bottle at night over that belly area is very good. Sometimes at night also the feet get very cold with hypoglycemia because of circulation. So a foot soak is wonderful. You could do a little Epsom salt or a little Dead Sea salt to do a foot soak, which is great. Basically to get that energy moving. And then in cooking, the important thing is the mild sweet taste. So squash soup, maybe like a carrot soup, carrot ginger soup, chewing something like brown rice really well. So chewing it because it gets sweeter the more we chew it. Using sweet vegetables like squash, cabbage, even right now sweet potato, Japanese yam are wonderful. Those can be used as well. Parsnips.
So the good quality sweets.
Exactly. So you want that mild sweet.
We have to wrap up. How can people reach you if they want a counseling session or a cooking class, or just to talk to you on the phone? How can people find you?
Yeah, the two best ways are my email. So very simply, Warren Kramer at live.com, 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 to my email, or my phone, which is area code 617-803-6957.
And I guarantee you'll have a wonderful time having a counseling session with Warren. He's got so much insight and creativity, and he knows how to cook really well, so that adds to his counseling skills. Well, thanks for joining us, Warren. It's always lovely to see you and to catch up with you and to hear all those great pointers. And join us next time.
Thanks for having me, Sherry.
Thanks for coming. And join us next time for another episode of Macro Magic.